Good morning, everybody. My name is Enrico Levi. I am the founder, the CEO, and actually the co-inventor of most of the product that Inzecto has developed. The title of today's webinar is The Future of Mosquito Control. Maybe we should call it the present of mosquito control because we will describe how the technology has evolved and what is available these days. Mosquitoes are not only an annoying pest, are vectors of dangerous diseases, and the climate change is actually increasing the risk of contracting such diseases. And more the media report about these cases. These are the current cases as the half of mid-August cases, and it's not the end of the year because what we can see is that we are just in the middle of the season where these diseases spread in the United States, and things are not going to get better anytime soon. In reality, the mega trends for the fight against mosquitoes are not very positive. The global warming is increasing the area around the equator where mosquitoes live and can reproduce and carry diseases. And where they were already present, the season becomes longer, representing a bigger threat for everyone. 80% of the US population lives in urban areas, so pest control in urban areas becomes absolutely essential. To make things more complex, we are experiencing, and we have been experiencing for some time now, a migration of non-native species to the United States. Probably the most relevant is the Asian tiger mosquito that reproduces in our towns and also carries diseases. And because of the bite during the day, make the control of such an insect more complex. The mosquito control industry is a big industry. It's growing consistently. There are studies that say that estimate the annual growth with more than 10% year on year, and is also considered the most profitable pest. So mosquitoes are here to represent a great business opportunity for everybody involved in the pest control of mosquitoes. But in order to build an effective form of mosquito control, we need to build our house on three critical pillars. Biology, which is the study and the knowledge of what attracts, what repels insects, how they reproduce, what they feed on. Technology, that is the development of devices that are effective at interrupting the life cycle of the pest by in a very efficient way so that can accomplish the results that are can be perceived by the clients, but also service. So it's important to build a technology that can be applied by the pest control people in a very effective and sustainable way. So in order to start from the biology, I think that is worth giving a little bit of a reminder of what is the life cycle of the mosquitoes. That is actually a life cycle that starts when the adults lay eggs, and they do that next to the water or directly into the water. When then the eggs transform into larvae, from larvae to pupae, and then there is the emergence of the adults. It's important to notice that 3 out of 4 of these stages of the metamorphosis take place in the water, and this represents a significant limitation when we apply the traditional barrier treatments that only kill the adults. In order to be effective, we need to understand what is the that mosquitoes find attractive when they need to lay their eggs. They need to see a food source for their larvae. They want to find places that are in a shaded place that can have high humidity and protection from the wind. The containers need to be without predators, so no fish, no turtles. The container need to have vertical sides, and a rough landing surface because they need to glue their eggs to the surfaces, to the side of the container. They prefer, and they're very clear preference when it comes to colors. They like to see that when they land in this container, they find already existing larvae. It seems that they see them as testimonial that this is a safe place for them to lay their eggs. It's also important to have containers that are close to where mosquitoes are active. Mosquitoes don't fly very far away, and they will not fly a long distance to find a container to lay their eggs. When we describe the life cycle, it's also important to describe how they reproduce throughout the year, not just the life cycle that we described earlier, in the sense that there are two significant moments in the life cycle of the mosquito throughout the year. The very first one is when the eggs that were laid the previous fall with water and heat find the condition to emerge as adults. This is the first generation that will continue reproducing almost every 3 days, laying between 200 and 300 eggs every 3 days. And in a very fast-paced life cycle can generate a lot of adult and biting adults. There's very little that can be done if your yard is already full of eggs that were laid the year before. There is a second moment in the process where instead we can do something, which is the last period when the mosquitoes, right before the weather turns cold, lay their eggs, and these are going to be the eggs that will remain dormant throughout the winter. It's very easy to see that, not to recognize the presence of these eggs, because as you can see in the picture, they might look like a little bit of dirt into a container. These are eggs that will hatch next spring. So being able to limit the eggs that are going to be able to survive the winter is crucial to have a significant control the following year. The current technologies available to pest control companies present some limitation. We can have the ULV services where we can have short-term protection, only kills flying adults. It needs to be applied at sunset, and it's not ideal for daytime biting mosquitoes like the Asian tiger mosquitoes. And also, they do not provide any form of larval control. More commonly are used the barrier treatments. These are treatments where you can enter the yard of your clients, but they can provide a maximum of 3 weeks of protection. You only kill the resting adults. Degrades in the sun and is washed away when it rains. It can be applied to flowering plants or close to water. Again, they do not provide control of the larvae. Then we have the larvicides. Larvicides usually don't provide any form of control that lasts more than 3 weeks, and are usually applied by homeowners, but they are not very well trained to identify larval breeding sites, so they might not recognize potentially dangerous breeding sites. And species like the Asian tiger mosquitoes are very good at finding tiny areas where they can reproduce. Moreover, larvicides tend to float, so in case of rain or irrigation, they tend to go with the water when it overflows. Then we have some existing OV traps that demand a monthly service, can provide reduction of the population after 1 week or 10 days, but they also require strong forms of PPE, and some include also allergen or require refrigeration. There are extra challenges that are not necessarily created by the technology, but they are created by the regulations. More and more counties, states are regulating the use of insecticides in respect of pollinators, waterways, food plants, pets, livestock. So basically, the story is that we are fighting a growing challenge, a growing enemy with fewer and fewer weapons, with a more restricted regulatory environment. In order to develop our product, then we decided to team up with the University of Florida, that is ranked #1 as its Department of Entomology. We were lucky enough also to be granted some funds from the Pentagon, from the Deployed Warfighter Protection Program. The mandate that we received from the Department of Defense was to develop products that are effective, robust, but also very simple to use, because they needed to protect the soldiers, but they did not want to create something that was so complex that could distract the soldiers, the deployed soldiers. So we had to come up with something that was simple, easy, yet effective. So then we arrived to the technology, and given the information that we collected for the biology and the mandate that we received from the Pentagon, we started developing our products, focusing on a new innovative ovi trap. In order to be effective, or more effective than anything that has been done before in the field of ovi trap, we needed to accomplish two goals. The ovi trap needed to be more attractive than any competing container in the area. We needed to convince the mosquitoes that our container is more ideal for them to lay eggs than anything else. Then we needed to be capable of killing adults and larvae over a long period of time, therefore being able to interrupt their life cycle. The first goal, the preferred container, has been accomplished with this strange shape that you see. And the test was run at the University of Florida, and we analyzed the reduction of the oviposition, so the laying of the eggs, in an environment where four containers, competing containers, were already present, and measured the reduction of eggs in these containers when one Inzecto trap was introduced into the container. The result is almost unprecedented in entomology, in the sense that the introduction of one of our traps reduced the eggs in the other containers by 83%. This is a phenomenal result, considering that mosquitoes tend to lay eggs in multiple containers. So having one container so more attractive than the others is per se unheard of. Then we needed to find something to kill the mosquitoes, and there's something that maybe it's not that obvious, because all the insecticide is inside of the trap. But the real key in the efficacy of our trap is in the inner coating. We invented a microporous polymer coating. Imagine a polymer that we can spread, that is embedded with adulticide and larvicide, with a structure that at the same time contains, protects, and slowly releases adulticide and larvicide. Here we have some of the percentage of the active ingredients. Those of you that are more skilled in chemistry might identify these as an extremely low dosage. And this is one of the other key features of our product. The two actives that are included in this polymer are permethrin, that is a adulticide, and the pyriproxyfen, that is a growth regulator, as a larvicide. But how does it work, the trap? We can here in a quick video summarize it. Shape, color, and scent attract the female egg-laying mosquitoes. The egg-laying mosquito will die because of the contact, lay the eggs, When the eggs transform into larvae, the larvicide will kill the larvae. So we have a percentage that has been measured that about 90-95% of the mosquito adults die at contact, or because of the contact. They don't necessarily die on the spot, but they might fly out. But 100% of the larvae that might still be present will die when they try to pupate. So we're using two different insecticides targeting two different stages of the metamorphosis of the mosquitoes, therefore also non-selecting pesticide-resistant mosquitoes according to the WHO guidelines in this respect. What is into Inzecto mosquito trap? I would start by the texturized interior surface. The polymer that you have seen is also created and made to present the ideal roughness for the mosquitoes to land and to glue their eggs. So they really think that they found the perfect spots. The ridges, or what we call them, the ribs around the trap, and the fact that the pyramidal shape has a smaller top than the bottom is made to create a high humidity and reduce water evaporation. Also, is made to disrupt any wind or airflow that might agitate the surface of the water. The colors are the most attractive colors, red and black, and the inner part, the coating is with a microdosage of larvicide and adulticide. There is something that always triggers the attention of whoever takes a look at the trap for the first time, which is the sachet. Inside of the trap, you will find what looks like a tea bag with a mix of leaf infusion inside. Everybody might think that this is where the insecticide is. It is not. Actually, this is an organic product and a biodegradable sachet. It's important to have it there for two reasons. One is that if the trap is loaded with tap water, it might contain chlorine and fluorine that are repellent to mosquitoes. So with this sachet that gives the odor of natural water, or stagnant water, the trap becomes effective immediately before chlorine and fluorine might evaporate. But also because, as we said earlier, mosquitoes love to see a potential food source for their larvae. So if you happen to open crystal clear Evian bottle, it might not represent an ideal breeding ground for mosquitoes, because mosquitoes are smart enough to understand that their larvae would die of starvation in that water. Other features of the trap is that it's very easy to maintain. Just add water. As long as there is just a teaspoon of water, the trap is still working fine. So depending on the weather condition, this might require very little or no maintenance whatsoever. The product is stable in all temperatures, so you don't have to worry to put it in the back of your pickup truck if you are going around for visiting clients. So there is no risk associated to that, and can be effective for up to 1,000 rinses. So the water is flushed out, just refill it with water, and it will start working again. It's very eco-friendly for humans, pests, birds, fish, and contain nothing that can hurt humans or other animals. There is the water overflow spout. Make sure that the trap doesn't get completely full. Why so? Because container breeding mosquitoes tend to lay eggs above the water level. If the trap was, for instance, completely full, they wouldn't know where to land and therefore where to lay their eggs. You can hang them to a tree, you can put them standing on a surface. Don't worry, as long as you don't expose them to full sun, or you place them on concrete or metal surfaces that would increase its temperature. Just to anticipate some of your question, when does it start working? Immediately after adding water, the trap is already attractive to mosquitoes. When do I expect a population reduction? Within 2 weeks from deployment, I will feel the population reduction. What I'm doing between moment 0 and 2 weeks is that I'm disrupting the life cycle. What can I see in the trap? I can see some organic debris from the sachet, the composition, and sometimes larvae that will die at pupation. How often do I refill the water? Actually, it depends just on the climate condition. In some cases, more tropical, you might not need to refill them. They will refill themselves with the rainfall. In other cases, more close to the desert, for instance, we have cases in Arizona where we had to refill it on a monthly basis. How often do traps require service? Depending upon evaporation rates. Typically check water levels every 30 days. Can it be placed near patio, restaurant, pool? Yes, absolutely. They need to be where mosquitoes are active. Don't expect them to fly far away to go lay eggs in the traps. That doesn't work. That doesn't exist. That is not consistent with the biology of the mosquito. Is it? This is also an environmentally sustainable solution because pollinators will not be attracted to this trap. So this way you can place it also near water sources, near flowers, in any place where you have fruit, when you have vegetables, in a very safe way. It's also important that to know that the mosquito trap are made between 15 and 50% of the recycled plastic, depending on the availability of the specific lot, but are also 100% recyclable. So there are no restrictions or special handling on disposal in the EPA label. Where do you place them? Between 20 and 30 feet apart in shaded areas where mosquitoes rest and harbor. So don't put them, as in that picture, in the middle of the lawn. Put them in the shade behind some of those plants. On average, we expect to put 2 traps if your yard is a quarter of an acre, 4 traps for half an acre, 8 traps for a full acre lot. You can also use the ring that is above the overwater spout to zip tie the trap either to a stick or to hang it from a tree. In this case, we suggest to position it between ground level and 5 feet in the air, which are the ideal height for mosquitoes for reaching the ideal place for them. Then the service, all the discussion about biology and technology would be useless if we couldn't figure out a way to include these products in an effective and efficient way in the service. And we have integrated our products basically into multiple programs, but I think that it's worth talking about 3 programs. One we call the Essential, so mix with barrier treatments. One is called we call it the Green, so it's a standalone treatment. And a variation, or maybe an integration of the two, is Inzecto as an add-on, in the sense that there might still be areas in your yard where barrier treatments are forbidden. So there might be a situation where you want to have a predominance of the Inzecto Green standalone treatment, where you want to be still controlling mosquitoes. What we recommend are, on average, 3 deployment per year, and these are 3 deployment per year that will that make sense if you remember the description of the biology and the description of the life cycle that we gave before. The first deployment that needs to happen on average in March, and we put a generic March, assuming that that is the beginning of the mosquito season. In some areas might be earlier, in some areas might be later. But the deployment at this time of the year will have a preventative effect and will make sure that the population of mosquito will not explode beyond a certain level, making it then more difficult to contain and control later on in the season. March might be also the moment where you change the traps that you deployed the previous fall. Then you have June, that is the time, the prime time for mosquito season. That is quite obvious. This is where usually the activities is more intense. But we recommend also September or October, because if pest control companies stop providing the service at a certain time of the year when mosquitoes might still be available, but maybe the service is not cost effective and companies don't want to provide the service beyond a certain time. Well, if mosquitoes remain active after that date, we might face two problems. The first one is that your clients might be disappointed because they might have, an Indian summer or a hot fall and still be willing to spend time in their yards. In that case, they would get bit by the mosquitoes and they might not like that. The second thing that can happen is that all the active mosquitoes in that time of the season are those that will lay eggs that will survive the winter. So by placing in that environment a container that attracts 83% of the eggs that they otherwise would position in your yard, might be an incredibly strong tool to prevent the emergence of large number of mosquitoes the following year. So when the following March you will pick up those traps and recycle them, you will not be just recycling plastic. You will be disposing thousands and thousands of otherwise emerging mosquitoes. These are a simulation of what would be the expected population of mosquitoes with no control, with the residual only. In this case, we envision 4 treatments, but the treatments that, as you can see, might become less effective if it rains and therefore less effective at controlling the mosquito throughout the season. And what happens if these barrier treatments are integrated with Inzecto mosquito traps. So we expect an annual reduction of 85% of the mosquitoes. Similarly, with the Inzecto green model, we expect a reduction of 72% that is very significant and involves still zero release of insecticide into the environment. The add-on refers to the application of Inzecto products when you have flowering plants, water resource, food plants, fruit trees, all the areas where spraying is prohibited, and these areas are getting more and more by the day. In short, the major operational benefits are recurring revenues, allows you to sell annual programs, it's very easy to add on. It's also a very strong marketing leave behind. Your clients will see that something is happening, that there is a form of mosquito control, even if you are not there on a regular basis. And you only need 3 to 4 deployments annually. Then it's obviously easy for installation. One step, just add water. Less man hours per month, low maintenance, less training, minimal water needed. One trap holds basically a quarter of a gallon, so it's very easy to transport and to fill. The technicians love it because it's also safe for them. The products contain, when you touch it, you don't get in contact with any insecticide because everything is inside. You have no allergens. the PPE requires are absolutely minimal. Actually, I think that the EPA only requires to use gloves, and no heavy equipment is used for the deployment. Then you have also the what probably is more the most important thing. So you have satisfied customers that effectively see the reduction of the mosquito population, that receive the proof of services, so they see that what is happening. There are less callbacks and increased referrals that come out of the overall customer satisfaction. In short, it's easy to use, just add water, stable in all temperatures. You can place it throughout the season and guarantee year-long contracts. Technicians love it, customers are happy, happy are the pollinators, and overall, you are presenting yourself as providing a service that is the maximum you could provide in terms of eco-friendliness. Here we have
Kyle Hamilton here with Hardline Pest Control in Gilbert, Arizona. We have been using the Inzecto mosquito traps for about a year now, and we've been having excellent results. Our customers love it. It's taking care of the mosquitoes without having to do all the fogging or the blowers. All you got to do is keep the traps full of water, put them where you're seeing the mosquitoes, and they do all the work for you. I could not suggest the mosquito traps by Inzecto more for all pest control operators out there that need to get rid of mosquitoes. Hey, Kyle Hamilton here with Hardline Pest Control in Gilbert.
I think that we can thank Kyle, and I like the idea that we have these testimonial. I always find very funny this term. Here is another testimonial that used the video, but provided as a written testament to what they did. These are traps positioned into a bush garden amusement park in Florida. These are positioned close to cages where we had animals, and that were not that was not possible to treat with the traditional barrier systems. So they were very happy with the results. Having said that, we are at the end of the presentation. We're going to be happy to receive your questions. Please do not hesitate to call us and contact us, and we will let you know also where the distributor selling our products might be close to your area. Thanks a lot, and I hope to see you soon to one of our next coming trade shows. All the best.